This is my friend Jamie. This is the first one I'm recording. I'll probably cut this part, but yeah.
That's cool. Always have to leave something on the floor. I mean,
yeah, but this is the BullRun podcast. You're here with Spencer Lowry and Jamie
Barthelemy.
Barthelemy.
Close.
I butcher it every time.
Just about average, though. You know.
Bartholomew. I feel like that's from something. Like,
I think that was the dragon from Rick and Morty.
what? Is it the slut dragon?
The slut dragon.
I'm gonna start calling you slut dragon in our yeah, so we, as I said, this is the BullRun, and we're gonna talk universe stuff today with Jamie.
Nice.
How you want to start this?
Maybe ease into it. I feel like we might need the Ouroboros behind us. Honestly, I'm feeling like that would add to some vibe.
Go get it.
Let me go get it.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're doing this.
If we're doing this, just go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Put the Ouroboros back there.
Yeah. There we go. That's much more appropriate. Now the feng shui.
The feng shui.
Yeah.
I had a cousin who likes to use that word, and he was made fun of it. And I was like, what? It's like a legitimate word. And people were like, no, that's not a real word. And I was like, what the heck?
Chinese aren't real people.
Chinese aren't real
That's
people.
fake.
That's fake.
Yeah, Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. It's Devin down in Florida. But,
okay.
He'll have to come join us on a Florida trip at
That
some
would be
point.
good. I'd love to go to Florida because I haven't been in a long time.
Oh, have you ever done the the traditional Disney World and all that?
I live in Orlando. I grew up in Orlando.
Oh.
So I went there as a field trip a few times.
Field trip. So you didn't have the year pass or anything?
I was the only one who didn't because I was the poor person.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Well, that gave you character for life.
It was supposed to have given me character for life. But, you know...
I mean, I only know 3 rich people who I can have the universe talk with.
Really?
And I know a lot. So I think it does. I think it gives you a understanding of existence.
It definitely gave me an understanding of the relationship between adolescent Puerto Ricans and Caucasians in Central Florida.
Uh-huh.
So that for sure. But, maybe there's something.
I definitely think there's something.
But, so where do you go to in Florida? Is it just Tampa or?
I go to Tampa and Sarasota.
That's right.
My significant other's in Sarasota.
Okay.
So, hopefully soon here up in Birmingham. But,
Nice.
Sarasota is a very weird city. I don't know if you've ever been there.
It's Florida, so.
It's weirder than normal Florida.
Really?
All right, so Sarasota was founded by the Ringling Circus.
Really? Like the Barnum and Bailey?
Yes.
Oh my god.
So the whole place was bought by the dude who founded Ringling Circus. And so all that stuff down there, you have a lot of leftover circus people.
What?
And you can see it everywhere. It's in the theme of everything.
Wait, I'm just imagining, you know how in New York they have a big Christmas tree with a star?
Yeah.
In this place they have a big Christmas tree with a elephant hook.
So you'll have several buildings that will be shaped like the circus tents.
Oh,
and
wow. That is different. Okay.
And you'll be a real building, but that's how it will be shaped.
So their aesthetic is just all in.
Yeah, all in. And my significant other went to the Ringling College down there, which is I'm going to call it the Harvard of liberal arts degrees.
Okay.
So it's the place to go if you're going to learn a technical trade in arts. So like game design, graphic design, you know, those kinds of things. So they learned game design and 3D modeling. That was their thing. And currently make buildings, you know, and for like an architect firm, you know.
Nice.
And so that's what you learn down there, is that kind of stuff.
Nice.
But it's super weird, not only on top of being like based on a circus.
Yeah.
There's the downtown is about half the size of Birmingham, but it has like the central downtown, you know, like skyscraper part.
Yeah.
But taller buildings than Birmingham.
That seems like a very funny proportion.
Yeah, it's very funny proportions just to see a few skyscrapers just right there. And it's a snowbird city. So like the locals are weirdos.
Wow.
You know.
From all over.
Like
old people from everywhere.
Everywhere. And like I've went down there in like the middle of the summer and, you know, like in the middle of the winter. In the middle of the winter you have all like these 60 to 70-year-olds, you know, just like it'll be jam-packed. And then in the heat, crawling with people. It'll be like a full functioning city. And in the summer, you can walk in like the downtown and not run into anyone.
That's bizarre.
It's so bizarre. You walk around and you're like, this is weird. Kind of gives you some apocalyptic vibes.
Wow.
You know? I was like, this is so strange of a place.
I bet. Wow. Why did I never know about Sarasota? Like, I just knew the name, but I had no reputation in my mind.
Yeah, it's such a weird place. It's filled with a lot of art and a lot of cool things, but
if there's weirdos, I bet there's a lot of art.
Yeah, it's known for its pottery. It has like this beautiful turquoise pottery that's done there. That's like a Spanish style.
Oh, cool!
And it's a gorgeous place. Would definitely suggest. It's kind of like here in like the urban areas where you'll have like some sketchy areas, which their sketchy areas are nothing like Birmingham's. But there are some sketchy areas, and you'll have like run-down houses, and then like a multi-millionaire house, just you know.
That makes me wonder what the violence rate is like.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a pretty safe place. I've never felt once.
Really?
You know, which as Florida is, you know, you run into your crackheads.
Yeah, you're gonna have your. Speaking of highly educated, you're gonna have your mathematicians.
Your mathematicians.
I mean, they're professionals over there. Like,
yeah.
God.
Yeah.
It's a wild place in general.
It is a really wild place.
But that's crazy. I never knew anything like that about Sarasota. So.
I would suggest going to Venice, which is a little bit south of Sarasota. That's where we had went and found like 341 shark teeth.
That's a lot of shark teeth.
I will send you a picture of all of them.
Did you just have had a handful of them, or?
Yeah. They're little, you know, like the biggest one is only like this.
Oh, okay.
You know, but they're like the size of a quarter. But most of them are like just itty bitty. And and what you do is you go kind of out in the sand, out in the water, and you pull sand back. And some people had like these shakers where they were doing it. We didn't do that. We would just scoop up sand and like put it where the tide was and watch it wash away. And like see them and picked them out. Got the worst sunburn I've ever gotten. Like my skin is still peeling.
Oh.
Yeah. Cool place though. It's a weird place, you know, too.
Yeah.
As all is Florida.
But I really like weird places.
Every city in Florida has its own unique vibe. It's very Florida, but everyone is like, oh, this is that city.
A little variation on the. Oh yeah.
And I mean, Alabama and its rural areas. You know, if you're in a rural area, it's just a rural Alabama. You're in the middle of nowhere, Alabama.
If I'm in Jasper, I can't tell the difference between Dothan and Jasper. Like,
at all.
Yeah.
You know.
No offense to Walker County. You know, when they get the internet, they're going to be mad.
You've been screwing me over this long?
God.
Yeah. Oh, Walker County.
Do you...
How do you think Alabama pulling itself up out of the dirt? You know, like Huntsville's doing that right now.
Yeah. Huntsville's doing fantastic right now.
I've considered moving up to Huntsville.
Really?
So, like, when me and my significant other have looked at places, I was like, all right, Birmingham, it almost had another boom cycle, but it just couldn't.
Right.
It tried real hard with the new mayor.
Yeah.
But it just couldn't.
I think we have a weird... I don't know if it's tax exceptions or what it is, but we have a lot of headquarters here. We have a huge concentration of business headquarters in Birmingham, and we have a lot of wealthy people. We have super wealthy people here, but...
The Vestavia and Homewood area is one of the wealthiest areas in the United States.
Yeah, but as far as like general population doing better and better and having and building a good reputation, I don't think it's going to be industry, and I don't think it's going to be corporation. Like, I see Birmingham becoming an art hub.
Me too. I've seen it heading that way. So Art Fest that happens there. I don't know if you've ever went to that.
I've never gone, actually.
Super cool. You know, they shut down all of downtown, and like they have all the stuff out there. It's one of the coolest art festivals I've ever went to.
Oh.
I see that happening, and I want these middle of nowhere places to pull themselves out of the dirt, and I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know if it's going to be help, you know, from like a government, or if it's going to be...
Honestly, I work...
Just pulling yourself up by the bootstraps.
Are you talking about outside of the cities?
Yes.
I don't know that they want to.
I don't know, but I've seen, you know, even in my lifetime with the internet, my generation's different. But my generation is leaving these areas because they realize, you know, that the only way to change it is to do different and go to somewhere else.
That almost hurts me, because I remember complaining when I was young and angsty. I complained on Facebook. Yeah, I complained on Facebook. I had moved here. I had become very disgruntled because I came from somewhere that is not conservative, because Orlando is not a conservative place. So moving here away from all my friends, I was pissed off already. And then all this stuff with the politics and the crookedness, and you know, everywhere's crooked, but I just wanted to complain. I wanted to blame something. So somebody was like, why don't you just leave? And I thought, like, I don't know why, but like, I don't want to leave because I see really good things. Like,
there's so much good here that could be, I don't want to say capitalized on, but capitalized on.
It could be actualized.
Yeah, actualized.
Absolutely.
But like, I've been all over the country, and I've seen other areas, you know, like, I wish we would go down the same path like Oregon did. You know, where it was like these small towns, just like almost hippified.
Yeah.
You know, like your people stayed there, and they made local communities, and they you see that in Sarasota too. Like, you have all these little farmers markets. You know, like every little town has its farmers market. And
what do you think will let them change though? I almost see it as like a, you know, they just learn from the generation before them culturally. Like,
I think it's an exposure thing. So look at Florida. Florida before the 80s was nothing. You know, it was, no one went to Florida. And then Disney and all this movement towards tourism led to a lot of exposure. A lot of exposure to people from all across the world. So you have to learn, like, acceptance in a weird way.
Right.
And
okay, that's a good point.
So maybe the path is to bring new people in.
Yeah.
You know, so that people can go, all right, that person from, you know, from China wasn't too bad. That person, you know,
right,
that from Africa wasn't too bad. That, you know...
maybe some of those ideas you have...
Yeah. That less of an echo chamber and less separation.
Right.
But it's so hard to do when your people are so violently against it.
Yeah. I've seen surprisingly positive things out of people you'd expect to be, like you're saying, way against any kind of cultural integration, any kind of influx of people from different places, races. Because I work in
construction, which is just a...
I mean, you're not getting... I don't want to say... You have to bring it up. Like, the people you're getting in construction are not going to be your super open people. That being said, I've seen a huge spectrum of, like, the ones that I just can't talk to because it makes me ill that they find excuses to bring things up about people they know nothing about. And then people who, like, are just sitting here like you and me and have been around, you know, all kinds of people.
It really sucks because... You know, where you're raised and stuff has nothing to do with it, like your intelligence level, or your emotional level, and I mean, look at Huntsville. The reason it's the center for rocket, you know, all your aerospace engineers and stuff is because the redneck population that was there was smart. They were. It's a very engineer type mindset up there. And I've tried to explain that to people. No, your rednecks are not dumb.
No.
They are engineers beyond you can believe.
The accent doesn't make them stupid.
The accent, which is funny, because, you know, like, you don't want your brain surgeon talking in a...
Right,
you know, like...
But maybe we're just being a little...
Yeah, but, you know, that doesn't mean an intelligence level.
Right.
At all.
Right.
Now, it's kind of funny, because, you know, my family are super redneck in a lot of ways, but they're all doctors and nurses and nurse practitioners and stuff like that. And so growing up, I saw this really weird, like, it's code switching is what it was. And they would go from, you know...
I bet that's weird.
Talking medical terms and talking in their very professional voice like this to... Put that ring in that pig.
Oh,
you know, it's pig's nose, like a hardcore flip, you know, from one moment coming across so ignorant.
I want to ask you about something about that, actually, because I'm very interested in that. In what I think is like almost a loyalty to what you think your culture is. So, like, people who are, would you call them just rural or redneck or whatever it is, do you think they have any guilt or loyalty that they think they owe to that culture, so that when they're around certain people they have to, like, represent that? Or
yeah, so I see that with my mom in, like, the Trump movement. You know, my mom is highly educated, has her master's degree in American history, and she jumped on the Trump train. And I'll probably get a lot of shit for what I'm saying. I don't hate the guy.
Right.
But I don't love him.
Right.
It was the same thing with...
I mean, that's, first of all, that's a hot take. How dare you be so moderate? Like...
Yeah, and it was the same thing with Obama. And I've argued with people, you know, like, Obama killed so many people in the Middle East.
I don't think we're allowed to say that. I
don't care.
Shit.
But like, with drones.
Yeah, but really, know,
Like, that's what happened. And Bush did the same thing. Bush, you know, initiated the drone.
We've had a long history of this.
Yeah, this build
war
up
thing.
And I'll never forgive the Obama administration for doing that.
Right.
And the Trump administration has done so many not good things.
Right.
And it's the same thing with every administration. But for some reason, the Trump administration really was taken on by these these middle of nowhere populations that have felt left out of the conversation of the country as a whole, because as they were shut down, you know, any moment they're like, oh, your accent immediately shut down, you're non-intelligent.
Right.
You work a blue collar, you know, mining coal.
Your opinion doesn't matter, or like you're too stupid.
Because apparently you can't work your way out of this.
Right.
You know, but that's just not how the economy was set up in those areas. They had to do that to feed their families. And my mom has went far more country and far more, you know, like this is my heritage since the administration has started, which I have found so weird. It's like a defense, you know, like well, I have to defend this thing now.
So that just that seems tribal, and like we all do it.
Yeah.
But it's cool. It's something to see, and I'm sure like seeing your mom do it is like really surprising, or maybe not. I don't know.
I mean, I was expecting it to happen. You know, there's always tribalism, but this current administration has just like poked on that tribalism to the point, you know, and I'm kind of centralist, you know, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I'm like, can we not have the tribalism? Can we have a conversation? Can we not, you know, the moment abortion's brought up, you know, can the right not shut down?
Right.
The moment, you know, gender identity or sexual or anything like that, you know, in terms of biology, you know, can the left not shut down? And this is coming from someone, you know, that's...
you're not exactly someone who's hard on the left, except for when things don't stack up. Yeah.
But, you know, someone like with the whole gender thing, you know, I'm someone who... I'm pan, you know, and I've dated lots of people. And...
Lots of individuals.
Lots of unique individuals. And I just do not understand why we can't have that conversation.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like...
I think that's a big sticking point right now. And I've heard so many theories about what kind of spirits are under it, pushing it, possibly, or why it's really happening. And
yeah, it's part of that cancel culture, you know, that cancel, like, oh, you can't talk about that. Shut down immediately. And we have to have these conversations. Yeah. That's what drives us forward, even if they're uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah. Speaking of that, you know, temperamentally, I lean left.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So
I kind of feel you on that. Do you know how much I wanted to just have a renaissance of that early 2000s, The Daily Show just shitting on the right? I wanted that so bad.
So bad.
But right now, I'm just angry at the DNC.
Me too. What they have pushed, you know? I'm like, the best you can give us is 2 men in their late 70s that have been sexual assaulting.
To represent the average person.
Yeah. No. These are not your average individuals.
I'm glad I didn't get mad about this, because I'm actually, like, upset about it.
Yeah, no. Get mad. You know, they do not represent us. In no means does Joe Biden or Trump represent either of us. Hillary Clinton didn't.
No.
You know?
No, not even a little bit.
Tulsi was the closest one to represent.
I'm glad. Okay. Well, I kind of was hoping you'd disagree with me, because I wanted to have a little bit of friction there. But no, like, I'm fucking Team Tulsi, man. Like,
so right now with the whole, like, China on our doorstep kind of thing, Tulsi's who I would want in.
Yeah. I mean, you want somebody who's... You trust her experience.
Yes.
I trust her attitude. I don't see any missteps there.
I don't either.
Like,
I think she was a little too brutal for a politician in a weird way.
Right. She, like, almost didn't have somebody going, smile for the camera.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta soften this up.
Yeah.
Like, she was just being real. And I loved that.
And I
guess,
loved that, but
yeah.
the administration didn't.
Right. The players in the game, I guess.
This is going to give me a lot of shit too, but like with Buttigieg being pushed, I was like, no. Fuck this dude.
Hey, watch it. Fucking watch it.
Were you part of the...
I was so neutral on Buttigieg. I was just like, he's a guy. Like, he's a dude. Like, I don't...
That's kind of how I was, but like he was pushed there for a minute when Joe was first showing the signs of what I consider dementia.
Oh, did you see like somebody was going, oh shit, no, like...
Yeah. Let's make his numbers higher. Let's make him win in these areas. Like where like with Bernie, like I love Bernie. I may not agree with everything he says, but he's an honest person.
I think I feel the same. Like,
yeah, and I think again he's too old.
To represent me.
To represent me, the average American, he's too old, but his ideals I connected with.
Right.
And so I was like, all right, I connect with your ideals. It was so funny to me where they're like, oh, he's a socialist, and he's so, and I was like,
I mean,
he was not pro-immigration.
Right.
Like he was like, save American jobs for Americans.
We are so, like, this is a real problem for us. And I'm not a good example of the counterpoint. I'm not educated. But I know we are so poorly educated on what communism really is and on what harmful xenophobia really is, that we don't know what parts are utility based and what parts are like idealism. So it's like I am not a fan of communism. I'm vehemently against it.
Yeah.
But we're the biggest, most powerful, developed nation on the planet, and we're still refusing to do things about healthcare. It's like, I kind of don't understand that. Maybe there's a good reason for it. I just don't understand it. So I'm confused.
I think since the 70s, it's been a money grab for not the 1%, the 1% of the 1%.
Yeah.
I think we have been in a money grab since the 70s. That's with the whole new stimulus, that happened. You may have got 1,000 or 1,500, whatever you got, and but for you to get that, they printed $6,000. The rest of that went to big corporations.
Wow.
And right now, they're not paying anyone. They're not, they're...
Yeah, the house always wins. I mean,
and that's what's happening. It's a money grab. The current stimulus is nothing but a money grab. What do you think about like a UBI, like with Andrew Yang?
I don't know.
See,
I really don't know. Because I don't want to be against it because I've never thought about it. I've never thought about that. And in the back of my brain, the part of me that's lived in conservative place for so long is saying anytime you push money into the hands ubiquitously, you're going to have increased prices, so it's going to almost wash out. So I don't know if that's accurate or not.
So the way I view it is, people will say, well, if they give that money in terms of like helping, individuals, giving it to like big corporations to make, a nationalized thing, it'll be a better deal overall. I don't necessarily think that. I think, so like an example is the military. You have these contracts where this one company can only produce this one part for airplanes.
Yeah.
And it'll be like $800 for a screw.
Yes.
That they can make on a CNC machine.
Literally a hammer I've put my hands on is a $500 hammer, and it is not special.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Yeah. And so if you took away those contracts, which are nationalized things, and said, all right, you know, and it's the same concept where people, you know, like you have a nationalized thing, taking away those contracts, and you just give that money that would have been wasted on that, you know, for that nationalized thing directly to individuals, and let the system find the cheapest way. Let capitalism find the cheapest way, and say, we're going to help you out here. Capitalism finds the cheapest way.
So you're taking out the sort of like guarantee, I don't want to call it nepotism, but like that, hey, here you go, here's a contract, and...
Yes, taking away that part and saying, you're on your own, but that money that we were using for that is going to these people.
Okay.
Immediately. I think something like that might work. I've thought about it for a long time. I think we will move away from a dollar into like a crypto where like your money gains value.
Yeah.
You know, instead of having an inflation rate where you lose 3% of your value every year, where it gains value. That would settle things. You know, we went away from the gold standard, and then at that point we became
and
that would just restabilize, I think. Would work as some sort of digital gold standard.
Yeah, if it's secure for the foreseeable future, that definitely, I think, that would be interesting.
I think the technology behind blockchain is securable.
Do you think, here's the question about that, though. If you ran the biggest mob on a continent, how would you feel about someone coming in and taking away your power from your printing press?
Oh, they are going to scream like little children. And I kind of think that's maybe one thing that's going on right now with the whole instability. I think a lot of our generation has like woken up and said, we're not going to play your game. And I've had this argument with people about, you know, voting third party. And they're like, you have to vote for the lesser of two evils. And I was like, I don't think you understand. My generation is a lot like the hippies were in the 60s, where we just aren't going to play your game.
Right.
You know, if it's not going to work, just don't play the game.
There's this weird thing happening with that exact sentiment. I was shouted down numerous times because I would say what I said to you. Was like, hey, I'm a fan of Tulsi. And I was told, if you vote for Tulsi, you're voting for Trump. And to me, that's you bullying me because you want what you want. So you're saying whatever. The words don't matter. They're a tool to push me into doing what you want. The vote is supposed to be what I want, isn't it?
Yeah. It's not supposed to be the lesser of two evils.
It's supposed to be representative of what your interests are.
I also think Americans should have a say in how their tax dollars are spent. So, you know, we vote in representatives, but also...
I mean, we barely vote.
We barely do.
I mean, you know, like, I think it's time. I think people now I hope, are going to see consequences and go, oh, we got to get involved in this shit. Really?
Right now. And I think that's happening. But like a thing I would like to see is when I fill out my taxes, you know, I say, you know, 5% goes to this, 6% goes to that.
Even on like an individual level.
On an individual level, because that would let me have a say.
Okay.
And your people who are paying big taxes, who are avoiding it mostly, but you know, when they pay their taxes, you know, they're having more say. You know, like hey, I want this to go to this industry. But you're voting for that when you're doing your taxes, but also voting for representatives that are pushing certain agendas. You know, so you have a discord in between the two, in between the personal and the national, you know, of what's happening. Because when it comes down to it, it's funded on our tax dollar. So, or we could move to a system where we don't do that at all and nobody pays taxes and they have a cryptocurrency and a certain percentage that is mined is set aside, you know, to run the country. Like, let's say it needs 10% of the total economic value every year to run the country.
Okay.
And so you print your money, and that 10% is set aside to run. And that's just what your budget is. 10% of the economic value, So you're taxing the economy as a whole instead of individuals.
Okay.
So I think that might work, but...
Would that end up being more flat, do you think?
That would be flat because it would be taken out of everything without us knowing.
Okay.
So it would be taken out of it would be equivalent of a stimulus, really.
Mm-hmm.
Where they're printing money to give flow, quantitative easing, which is what's happening right now with the stimulus.
Yeah.
And they're keeping a percentage of it, 10% or whatever you need. That estimated year you have to print so much money to keep up with the growth of the economy. And you estimate, all right, if I print this much, the economy grows this much, I can keep this much to continue running the government.
Okay.
Now, that would be like a whole economy tax. So it would come out of everything without us knowing. The same way that, with the stimulus right now, you got your 1,000, but 5,000 was taken away, and you didn't even know it.
Yeah, I had no idea. I don't know anything about that.
It was taken out of everything. Everything you own devalued a tiny bit because of the way...
What the fuck?
Yeah.
I thought I was just chilling on the couch getting money. Shit.
So they're technically taxing you by devaluing everything you own. So taking away value of the economy as a whole.
Wow.
So
that's darker than I thought it
was. Which it helped,
I just didn't know.
Yeah, most people don't. They're like, oh, I'm getting my 1,000. Look what the Trump administration did for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, they're technically taxing all of us.
Right.
The equivalent of like $7,000 each.
Wow.
But, your people who own more assets, those have gone down in value. Mm-hmm. Which it's good for, it sucks if you just bought a house.
Right.
Yeah. But for like...
What loser would have just bought a house? Fuck. Brie.
But as for everyone else, the value of everything goes down, so it's cheaper. So instead of raising minimum wage,
mm-hmm.
you devalue everything else.
Oh, okay.
And so the value...
You're kind of burning the candle from a different end.
You're burning the candle from a different end. And I think that's the best way to do it instead of having the argument of, raising the minimum wage. Just devalue everything.
Okay. Maybe less moving parts that way.
Less moving parts. There's less argument to it.
Okay.
So you don't have some cities where the minimum wage is like 15 or $20 an hour, and then others where it's still $6.25.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna pretend I understand it, but I get kind of a gist of it. And I see what you're going for there. But I've just been so bad at money stuff. For some reason, it's not, my brain doesn't work with money stuff. Like, I would love to just like money, man. Like,
money.
Come on, man. But
money's important, though.
It is.
It's a very important part.
It's one of the most important tools we've made.
It does, because it lets us not bargain.
Yeah.
I mean, could you imagine going...
There's
buying
stable value now.
Yeah,
like,
stable.
Yeah.
Going to buy your house and saying, I'll give you 30,000 chickens for this house.
It's like, well... First of all, I'm going to have to hire someone to fucking count the chickens. and
I have to pay them in chickens.
Yeah, so... Oh my god, this chicken division is insane, man.
Oh, no.
Fucking chickens, dude. I don't even like chickens. They're shitty animals. Have you ever raised a chicken?
The dumbest motherfuckers.
And they're assholes if they're roosters. Yeah. You gotta slap them in their place.
Yeah. Have you ever raised turkeys?
No.
Worse than chickens.
How could it be worse than chickens? Because chickens are shitty.
In the level of dumbness, worse than chickens.
You know what I'd like to point out right now?
What?
Roll Tide. We're having a real good conversation about Alabama right now.
Turkeys are so dumb, domesticated turkeys, that when it rains, they will hear the thunder and look up, and rain runs down their beak into their nose, and they will drown.
I've heard that. I didn't think it was true.
Oh, it is a true thing. The first turkeys I bought died that way. All of them in one rainstorm. They were not smart enough to go up underneath the shed part.
You gotta like hold their little stupid wing and go, come on, dummy.
Yes, but they're one of the most inbred livestocks we have.
Did we like inbreed them for size or something?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
wow.
So that's the reason that like you have the big breasted turkeys. Same thing with our chickens.
Yeah.
But we inbred them to be huge. Like a wild turkey's bigger than like a domesticated chicken, but they're not that big. And like the modern ones, there's some breeds that are so big that they can't hardly stand. They just like fall forward.
Wow.
And it's actually really sad.
That is sad.
And like we kill them early age, because they'll get too big and die.
Damn.
So, yeah.
I wasn't even prepared to go into like factory farming and shit, like, because I'm still eating meat. Like I'm.
I mean, but you know, you need that. You need it is almost impossible to ethically involve yourself in our society.
Yeah.
It is almost impossible to go, I won't eat meat. I won't, because it's the social etiquette around it. It's you know, I have celiac, and like going out and eating with friends and stuff, or like going over to someone's house to eat, and they'll be like, oh, you want this pizza? And I'm just like, you know, I feel so socially just not there so much because of it.
Do you want to really think I'm an asshole?
Yeah.
So, you know how you have a really valid reason for not partaking in certain foods, and it really makes you suffer?
Uh-huh.
I'm a really picky eater. And I just don't want it. Like, I just like, sorry, I don't eat shrimp, dude. Like, it's like, I just don't want it. Have you ever had it? No. I just don't want it. I just don't want it. I don't know why.
But at least mine is, you know, like, yours is choosy about certain things. You know, it's not bread. Bread's on everything.
Yeah, we are addicted to fucking bread.
Carbohydrates, man.
But maybe you could just high road them. Maybe you could just be like, dude, you need to stop fucking being addicted to carbs.
You heard this keto shit?
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's it. Guilt them.
I gotta get Joe Rogan size before I can do that, though.
Dude, I don't want to know what I would be like if I was Joe Rogan size. Like, if I was literally 50 and built like that.
Oh, man. It's the goal. I just need to do enough DMT to get there.
DMT while lifting your kettlebells. Shit.
Oh, man.
What a life that fucking dude has.
I know.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine being someone who's so... Well, you can, because you fucking do this shit. Being so busy. Like, most people I know don't understand what it's like to be busy. They say, no, I'm busy today, because they have something to do. They don't realize that people have schedules where they do 50 things before they brush their teeth. Like,
yes.
It's crazy. Like, people don't understand the productivity level, and I didn't until I started looking at, like, CEOs and going, oh, there's levels to this shit. Oh, I'm just not a good person. I get it now. And it's okay.
You think I'm busy? My significant other... He comes, so he wakes up and goes to work at 9. That's normal, you know. Comes home at 5, 9 to 5. He eats, then he works from like 6:30 to 12 o'clock at night. He is writing a book and building a video game, and it's not like I'm working. It's like I am working. Here is like in the past year, like, here's my 500 pages of my book I've written, you know.
Yeah.
I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, like every day.
there's a few people who have it, man. Like,
I know. And we have this conversation, and we're like, there's only so much content repeats itself, you know.
Yeah, sure.
So, like, after you've watched, you know, you've gotten out of your consumer state, it gets boring. Consuming gets boring.
Yeah.
Like,
well, hold on a fucking minute. All right. I don't think it does for everybody.
I don't think it does, but I do chase the things that give me that feeling.
Yeah, right. If it's like...
So, have you watched Devs? It's on Hulu.
No, I haven't watched anything in a long time. I've been playing video games.
That's okay. Video games can give you the feeling.
I think so. If it's... Yeah. Well, sometimes. Sometimes. But no, I haven't seen Devs.
Oh, it's about, like, a simulated reality and quantum computers. And, like, it's a company that's like Google, and this guy's drive is only to be reunited with his daughter. So he builds an entire simulated reality that's undistinguishable from our own. It's from Alex Garland, the same dude who did Ex Machina.
Okay.
If you've seen Ex Machina.
Okay.
And stuff like that. The entire time I'm watching it, I'm like, ooh, gives me chills. And I'm like, that's the thing, that universal truth, that
There's something
there that's poking at the thing behind reality.
What do you think it is? Like, do you think it's something like you want it to happen, or you think like maybe it's happened?
It's the thing that makes me go, that could be real. That could be reality.
Like future or present? Like
present, or like our reality may be simulated. Okay. Or like that thing, it makes me feel that. Where it's like, it's almost like a melancholy feeling, where I'm like, it's a little bit hollow, but it's also exciting at the same time.
Okay.
And I don't know how to explain that, where you kind of feel like a little bit of hollowness, and it kind of creeps me out a little bit, the feeling of like the thing,
like
of
hair raising up.
Yeah, hair raising.
That's called awe.
Yeah, that feeling of awe, but not like my brain's been shook awe.
Right.
But not like an aha moment, like a moment of like oh, that is unsettling.
Like you are confronted with a predator.
Yes.
That's the instinct.
Yes, that
something big.
Something big. Something could be watching me. Something's not right here. That could be the thing.
That's a funny thing. I don't think I've ever talked to you about this. When I was a really little kid, when I was like 9 or 10 or something like that, I'm not I don't subscribe to Christianity. So when I was really young, my parents tried to get me to, but I'm a hard-headed kid. I ask too many questions. I'm not I don't care about your rules. I don't care about your customs. I don't care about your traditions unless they have a good tangible purpose. So I would ask these questions and not really get any answers, and these patterns would emerge. So I would end up talking to God and going like, hey, just in case you're real, I'm talking to you. So you wouldn't be mad at me because this is an honest moment. And if you're who you're supposed to be, this honesty is right. That feeling of like, there's a humility and like, but then I would transition from that to going, I think that if I think the right thought, I will have won the game and get out of the simulation. I was like 10 years old.
Yes, since I was a child.
And I've never... I always had that... It's a weird feeling. I don't...
Like, how do I escape the simulation?
Why would people think that?
Where is the way to turn off Roy?
Yeah, exactly. like my wife. It's such a weird thing to think. Like, is there a thing where I can go, oh. Well, Okay. All right.
Yeah. And I feel like I've done that before, and then I play the game again. So in terms of like, substances that take you to other realms, it's like taking off the VR headset for a moment, and I'm in that other place, and I'm like, oh, this is reality.
Hyper reality.
Hyper reality. This is a lot of stimulation. Let's be here for a little bit. All right. Go back here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why would I do that over and over again?
Yeah. I don't know, but I mean, I'm right there with you. Like,
and then the hyper reality, is that a simulation?
Yeah.
Is there a way out of that where you're just a dude that's the computer programmer that wrote that?
This last time that I hung out with our friend Lucy, it was my little brother. He is his first time. So I was excited. I was like, yes, he's finally like, he trusts me. I'm okay. All right, we're going to do this. And it wasn't a hyper visual experience for me. But I remember at one point I was overtaken with this image, and it was striking. It was a close-up of an African man who had extremely dark skin, but paint on. And the paint was diagonal down his face in streaks. But they were straight. They were straight streaks.
It was an Aborigines?
It was specifically African.
Okay.
It was very African features. But he was like a middle-aged man with a look of disinterest and these orange streaks. They were orange against his black skin. And I remembered the resolution. The resolution on that surface of his face was so strikingly more powerful than my eyes can do, that for a minute I was like shaking. I was like, it was almost like a glimpse into something else, and it sounds so stupid to say, but it was like, I don't ever see those things. My eyes can't see that way, but I saw for a moment the texture, like I saw like his real skin and a depth of a clarity, zooming in, zooming out, being able to see pores, cracks in the lip that was popping out. And I don't know if that's illusion post experience, or I don't know how to explain that, but it was just interesting because you were saying that, and it kind of reminded me. I wanted to bring that up because it was just really interesting to me.
My last journey with Lucy, we sat there, me and my boyfriend, and just looked at the kaleidoscopes, and like this was kind of on the come down after we've melted and we had went to that place.
Nice.
Where you don't quite, you remember it on the come down, but then
was that a strong potency on that time?
It was 2,
okay.
so 200 UG.
Okay.
But I feel like when you're with other individuals, lower doses have a higher effect.
Like there's a communal thing.
There's a communal thing.
You're like kind of bouncing off each other.
Yes.
I can see that.
Yeah. Every time when there's been multiple people, involved, it's like an echoing effect where it bounces off. No, we were sitting there, and we were watching the kaleidoscopes, and it was like, that's the substrate of reality. That's where everything exists, is in those kaleidoscopes. And the spots that cross over are the nodes of existence. And from those nodes, things can come forth. So new consciousness, and new experiences can come forth. And all of reality is just the big consciousness, whatever it is, focusing and processing this kaleidoscope, which we were talking about this earlier, like the Mandelbrot set.
Yeah.
That's what it might be. Those nodes might be the edges of the Mandelbrot set.
The edges, whatever, if we could define that.
Something with infinite edge, but defiant volume. Like, because that's what the Mandelbrot is. Like, how do you do something? So it's processing this. And from finding more and more edges, more of that.
So is it mining?
It might be mining. For all I know, we might be mining crypto. That might be our
Yeah.
existence.
And we're not even the intentional outcome.
No, we're not even the
Okay,
intentional.
we need to stop. I'm getting a little...
It's like Tron, you know? Like those individuals that are alive, they're not even the intentional outcome.
We're incidental.
We're incidental. But why not enjoy it? If we're here, if we are incidental, why not? So, like, I think I have this thought pattern that happens a lot where reality, so like geometry is the world is a pure, general relativity is pure geometry, you know, and it can be explained by geometry, and the quantum world can't. So I have this theory that it was a computer that was, because the Mandelbrot is a fractal that was processing and trying to solve the fractal of existence, creating infinite complexity. Then it made a mistake, and the Mandelbrot folded in on itself. And if you fold it in on a very particular spot, you get all of the laws of our universe. So, like, it made a mistake in the calculation, and it folded in, and that shape it built would be something like, do you know what the E8 shapes are?
E8 shapes? I don't think so.
They're a mathematical term used to explain reality. And like in a lot of these, they're called lattices. And in a lot of these, you can find all the math to explain particles. You know, like general relativity. Yeah, all this stuff can be explained by these E8 shapes. Like the physical representation can be explained.
Oh, wow.
But the quantum field theories can't be explained. So I think they're two separate things. And the quantum field theory led to an E8 shape, which is projected and created our reality. Which would be done through something like the Mandelbrot. Making a mistake upon itself.
It's so, like, it's beyond my real, like, all I can do is speak with intuition on this because I have no technical knowledge, and there are obviously people who've been working on it, but I feel like there's something there, and it's strange to think about nothing, and then all of a sudden, you know, something, yeah. So I can't obviously think of anything to explain that, so without getting religious. So is it someone mining and then there's just an incidental error? Yeah. And then for 3 cycles we have a universe.
Yeah.
and
then so that's my explanation for consciousness, where there's a built-in law. So there's this thing called Shannon code, which is used in computer coding, which is finding an error in code so that it can fix itself. It's self-editing fixing code. There's a shape that explains Shannon code, and it has been found in the laws of physics. So a self-editing thing. I think that's what consciousness is. I think consciousness arises in, because the big thing isn't conscious, I don't think. I don't think what it's doing is conscious. It's just chasing, it's just mining. And when a mistake happens, it goes, all right, create a reality, or like this reality was created.
To sort?
Yeah. So it was solving the Mandelbrot set. There was an error where it's on those fuzzy lines, you know, and there was a mistake in the solving that created our E8 shapes and all that, our universe, the geometry, it created that. Well, there's some sort of code that happens when an error is made, that consciousness is bound to arise in that reality. And consciousness goes on a path to chase what its existence is. That's what consciousness is.
Mm-hmm.
It's chasing what its existence is. And for us, that's, being human, but also the physical laws that we exist with. And so we eventually solve everything. We solve all the problems, how this universe completely works.
Right.
The moment we do that, the big computer...
It smooths out.
It smooths out. But it's viewing the world through us, because we're nothing but the universe experiencing itself.
Right.
So it's the big computers viewing the thing through us. Oh, there's the problem. Let me fix, node...
You're strangely making too much sense right now, and I'm getting a little freaked out.
Let's fix node, 3,000 quadrillion right here, whatever. Let's fix that. The error was supposed to be a -1 instead of a 1.
Mm-hmm.
Fix that. Boop. Our reality would be gone. So solving existence would probably shut reality down, if I had a guess. But errors are bound to happen again. And so they're infinite, which is called the Everett theory, where there's infinite universes.
Yeah.
So infinite errors would happen with infinite existences. So why not chase the thing? Would you flip the switch if you got to know the answers to all of the universe?
Well, what do you mean? Like, would I smooth the problem and make it...
If you knew that you could know everything in existence,
mm-hmm.
but there's a chance that nothing would exist after it. A chance
that the equation would be solved and that it would move on to the next part of the mining or zooming.
Yes. Would you do it? Would you chase the thing?
Am I going to find it? Or am I just going to chase it?
I don't know. You may find it. It looks like we'll find it eventually. I mean, look at the how our life has been. We've, gotten better and better technology and better existence. Eventually, we will solve the puzzle. And does solving the puzzle go to the child who's solving the puzzle?
Is this already a theory?
I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
And it's pieces of a whole bunch of things that I have put together.
Okay.
Over. But would you do it if solving the puzzle took your attention from the puzzle because you're like, I'm done with this toy?
Oh.
Would you?
That's a rough one because
you wouldn't exist.
Right.
I wouldn't exist.
Right.
But you get probably a better puzzle eventually.
I would, or something would.
Something would. The thing that's experiencing reality through you, though.
Oh yeah, is this Reboot
self.
right now? Did you ever watch Reboot?
No.
Okay, it was a show about computer programs who lived complete lives, but the user of the computer was using them to play games. So, but to answer your question, I don't know because, like in the words of my man Finn Mertens, I'm sort of attached to this meat reality. I'm kind of invested a lot in it, So I don't know, but
hey, you gotta watch the Midnight Gospel.
I'm scared.
You're my Duncan Trussell.
I'm scared.
You need to.
Should I just be scared and do it?
It's not bad.
Okay.
It is.
I want to experience it under the influence, though.
Under the influence.
As my first time.
I will say this: the show was dumb, and I was mad that a dumb show made me feel the thing.
Oh no!
I was like so mad at it because I was like, stupid show. It's right. It made me feel the thing because one of the things I get so mad about is an answer I get a lot where it's like, just play the game, and I'm like, I want some seriousness. I'm tired of the universal joke where it's like, just because.
Right. Right.
Like I want some seriousness. It sounds awful, but I want like some James Bond level seriousness. Mm-hmm. I want reality to exist for more than just to play the game.
Right. Right. But you're subjectively getting positive and negative emotion from it, so you're built in with motivations to play the game.
You're built in to play the game, but I want some seriousnesses where I go. So when I trip, I get some of these things where it's like, oh, none of it matters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, none of it does. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, but it should matter.
Right.
It should. I should feel more. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and it. I get so upset with that answer of. It's not.
Do you think
serious.
that's an innate? Okay, so that brings up another question I want to ask you, because you've been around religion your entire life.
Uh-huh.
It is now my belief. I think it's my strong belief, despite what I want, that the human animal has a propensity, not just a possibility, but a propensity towards religion.
Yes.
I think we do.
I think we do.
And I didn't want that.
And I didn't either. I think that I'm using like science and philosophy and all those things as my replacement for religion.
I think I'm doing the same thing.
That-
And 14-year-old me hates me for that.
Me too, cause I'm like, oh, you're just buying into the
I
thing.
wanted to be smarter than everybody else.
Oh, but
I wanted to be more sophisticated.
Baby.
No, because I'm still religious. Damn it.
Just in a different way.
As long as I'm different.
If there's more complexity to it than a dude dying on a cross.
Yeah, okay, I feel better now. I feel better.
Yeah.
As long as I can be superior in some way, that's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but seriously though, I really do believe that that's part of our nature as an animal.
But I mean, my religion has pushed forward everything that is good about modern reality. Everything that's bad too.
If you're assuming that your perspective is complete. And that
Yes.
you know, because maybe in 100 years we go, oh, okay, well...
But I don't think chasing science is going to be a bad thing ever.
No, I don't think so either. I think chasing science is just fine. Part of me worries that it's possible to leave out some things that over generations and generations and generations, tradition kind of taught that now we just know, but maybe we needed to be taught it a certain way to know it.
Yeah. So, like, an example of that is, so my grandparents, or really my great-grandparents, would burn their forest every 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and now you can't do forest burns because
Right.
we're so worried about that. But that was such a thing that was like a cultural, like, taught down, passed down.
But isn't there real utility to burning off dead wood, though?
Yeah, there is. And we know this. And we know how it's good, but like because of the cultural standard now, oh, you can't burn that. You can't hurt that forest. It's good for that little...
You can't hurt that forest?
that,
like it's a baby to be cared
yeah,
for?
that little bit of suffering is good for it in the long run.
Because what happens if it builds up over 50 years?
Then it burns it down to the ground. You know, you kill all your trees when your forest burns.
Which reminds me of a psychological take that I think is pretty interesting. I wanted to talk to you about also. About burning dead wood.
Mm-hmm.
And changing your mind and learning, which I've grudgingly done just a little bit of lately. And it's painful, and I hate it. And I hope it goes to hell.
I think that little bit of suffering is good. It's like running, all right? You know, if you go and run...
Yeah, you're technically tearing your cells.
You're tearing your cells. A tiny bit of pain, little bit of suffering, in the long run is good. It's better to get that tiny bit of suffering now instead of letting it build into something that is going to hurt you.
Right.
Really hurt you.
To crash the whole system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You did jiu-jitsu, didn't you?
Well, I would still if the virus wasn't making us all scared.
I have some friends that are still doing it, and
yeah, that's I hope people are, because like every time because I'm on Instagram connected to a lot of people, and a lot of people are like, yeah, fuck that, we're still doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, good, I'm glad you are.
I will not name names because of virus, but I'll see if they'll want you over.
I'd be happy to, yeah, absolutely.
And we can roll. I just started.
Did you?
I am still sore.
Yes.
From Saturday.
We fucking got you. Yes. It's so good.
The moment I got on there and I started doing it, I was like, oh no, because I did rock climbing for like 3 years.
I remember when you were in that.
Yeah, and I was like, this is just gonna be another rock climbing. This is gonna be an obsession.
Think about, people have this analogy and they talk about jiu-jitsu as chess. I think that's terribly inaccurate. I think the gist is there. It's physics. It's chess, but if you had 1 billion pieces and I didn't know what those pieces were or how they worked, because I can't read your mind. I have no idea what you know and what you don't. You may have invented a piece that I have no idea. And so the ocean you dive into is just crazy. Oh my God. I've gotten choked out by small women so many times and been just so happy about it.
So I was actually really happy because I won all of mine.
Nice.
But I am a very brute force, and I know physics enough to go, all right, here's a pivot point. I can pin you here and get you to a choke point from this. But I don't have the technique yet.
Okay.
So that's where I'm weak. But I don't submit easily.
Which is one of the reasons you're sore, because part of it is learning where to relax and where not to.
Yeah. And so I don't have the technique yet. And I feel like if I get technique, I'll be really good at it. And I was told I will be really good at it if I get technique. And, but just brute force. But that also means I was no good at doing like 20%, effort right here. It was just...
Well, it's counterintuitive to your instincts because you're in
a fight.
Yeah, you're in a fight with another person. So it doesn't matter if you know consciously. Your body's going to go, hey, I need you to fucking move. And you're going, okay, fuck. It's like some things, like, we're not in control of ourselves.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things where I was like, with rock climbing was the same thing. I was like, I can learn to control myself with this.
Yes.
And so I was like,
yes,
I'm going to chase the thing now. Yep. And this thing is going to be Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
I wholeheartedly hope you just dive the fuck into it because it's, man, the things you get out of it, like
even that one session, and it was not the best session because I was still sunburned and I was kind of drunk a little bit. I was sobering up, but I was still, and I had planned on doing it, but I had gotten sunburned and then later on that night, I was like, I don't even care anymore. I want to give this thing a go. And
you have got to. They'll let, because I go to Spartan. That's where Walt Harris and Eric Anders go.
I don't know any of the names yet.
Okay, Walt is a heavyweight. He was ranked number 9. Eric is a middleweight. He's 185. Walt is. I don't know. I'm gonna say I don't know if he's light heavyweight or heavyweight. But anyway, if you heard anything on the news about Anaya. Okay. Well, that's Walt's stepdaughter that was abducted and then just.
Oh, is that the little black girl that was abducted?
No, not a young girl. She was 19.
Oh, then no.
This was a fucking tragedy in the community. Like this is not good. He was just destroyed by that. Not destroyed because he's somehow managed to put himself back together and start focusing on things. But he's in the UFC and Eric is in the UFC and you can come and you need to see the absolute levels to this crap. I mean, when I say getting choked out by small women, I'm not joking. Like, after being involved in this since 2013, you still just, it's crazy. Somebody is this much smaller and much supposedly weaker.
Is this the same group with like the professor and
Well, we have a lot in Birmingham, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I was told that we have some of the best gyms.
Surprisingly, Alabama has not only great food, not only great art, not only great film.
There's so much going for it, and it just doesn't pick itself up.
And I don't know why we're not exploding with all this stuff we have going on right now.
Mm-hmm. I was telling my boyfriend, he's like, because he came up here in November for my birthday, and he was like, it's kind of slow, and I was like, yeah, but it has so much going for it. It's waiting for the boom.
Yeah.
And when that happens, it's going to happen.
Loaded.
We're loaded. The gun is loaded and it's pointed, but nobody's pulled the trigger yet.
Yeah. The amount of, I mean, like, I know all kinds of musicians who are super talented. I know jazz guitar players. I mean, you play fucking every stringed instrument I think that exists.
You put it in my hands and I can figure it out.
It's just crazy, man. Like, it's just crazy. There's some wild people here.
Yeah.
And I wanted to hate it. I wanted to hate it so bad, but...
And this sounds awful. I think everybody's waiting for the man, which is the silent generation and the boomer generation, to get not in control.
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it.
And my whole thing has been, it's awful because we're skipping over Generation X.
Yeah.
They did not have their time in the sun.
No.
Which sucks.
They didn't.
But millennials are getting to the point where it's like, all right, time for control. Here's this big population that's coming out of control. Which it really sucked because it was this big population and a sudden burst in life expectancy. So they had more time. They ate by that healthier lives and and longer life expectancy. They ate up their children's time in the sun.
Right.
They ate up the time for them to be in control. And it feels bad because I think millennials are in the same state. Life expectancy is just going to be large again, and we're another large group.
Right.
We're bigger than Generation X.
But I'd like to say we're stumbling onto something that's a little better than...
Yes.
I mean, surely we've learned something. If nothing else, that we have to fucking educate ourselves.
We can't rely on the system.
Right.
Maybe.
I've been trying to make this a priority, is don't buy into propaganda one way or the other. Please, to myself, just be open to being wrong about your notions, because I have a lot of notions. It
took me a long time to learn that lesson. Way longer than it should have. Where it was like, all right, you're not right about everything.
Right. Because how can you be?
How can you be?
And at a certain point, I think to myself, how fucking narcissistic are you? Because I think... oh yeah, I know better than this person. I know better than this. I'm sitting here judging all these different people, and
then you take a step back and you look at your own life, and you're like, I was a shit show.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah.
And I'm probably being a shit show right now.
Yeah.
So
how can we slowly start to just put ourselves together a little bit, just at least move in a good direction. And I feel like that's. Because we have a lot of publicity for radicalism, whether it's the neo-Nazis or whether it's extreme, I don't know if it's the SJWs or I don't know what the term is for the extreme to the other side.
The social justice warriors, probably.
Yeah, but I don't feel like that's a big part of our population. I feel like the biggest part of our population is just trying to live their lives.
Yeah, the biggest part is. And I can understand where the boomers are coming from because they're losing control right now. So
right, they had it for so long.
They had it for so long and they're losing it. Why wouldn't when you take a toy away from a child, they throw a tantrum.
Yeah.
Like, and so it's the same concept. Society as a whole, your generation is a child. You know, always. And when you take away the thing, they get so upset with it.
Yeah.
And that's just part of life. That's part of the aging, birth, you know, life and death cycle.
Yeah.
You know, and
yeah, it's time to fucking sorry. I mean, even if I like, no one's taking a vote away, but now more people are voting what they need to be represented. So sorry.
Yeah. What do you think about like localization of power?
Oh, in what way do you mean? You mean like in terms of state, city?
Yes.
I think that's against my liberal leaning heart.
Yes.
I like that.
Me too. So part of me is like, no, everywhere needs to be the same.
Right, because that's what I want.
But people should have a say in like their community and their, you know. So it's leaning towards community at that point.
Yes, and community's a good thing.
Yes.
And it took me being older than I was to realize that.
Yeah, I jumbled community in with society, which they're really close.
Right.
You know.
But again, going back to us as an animal, we have a nature. And do you know the term for the number of people you can have in your internal tribe? What is that?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's a term.
I think it's a constant or something.
Yeah. Something's constant. It's some dude's constant.
I think it's 147.
Something like that.
Is the like number of friends that you can keep at close reach.
Because that was an optimal number for your tribe and the most part of our evolution or whatever.
There was I listened to something recently about that where it was going back to tribalism in that sense. And but that's hard because we're trying to do that, but we're doing it in the wrong way.
Right.
So like, how do you do that in the right way? Because tribalism is what leads to differences where it's like your tribe is different than my tribe, so we have to hate each other.
Therefore I'm justified in whatever I want.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that localization idea is good because it lets you focus on a smaller, more homogenized society. Like, then you all have the same circumstance, same geography, same situation. Then it's okay to say, hey, we all have the same rules.
Yeah. So I have the neoliberalism is a no-go for me.
Okay.
So what I want is the government to enforce our rights as a whole. You know, like everybody has the same rights over, like same standards of living over everything.
Some broad
rights.
Life things.
But after that, you know, so like Mississippi is it's a welfare state. You know, it sucks up for every dollar it sends, it gets back like $2.50.
Yeah.
You know, my tax dollar should stay more local.
Right.
And by local, I mean like within my community.
Right.
You know.
And this is so funny because these are ideas that like religious figures would advocate for, and I never thought I would even agree with.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but like not everything that they do is terrible. And I keep having to remind myself that because I'm like, oh, why am I agreeing with this?
The thing that drives me nuts with religion is it's someone at some point who understood the universe. Look at, Hinduism, Buddhism, even Christianity. They understood reality. And then all of a sudden someone's like, oh, this person's a smart person, they understood this, I'll follow that mentality, it's a good thing. And then it becomes traditional. And through traditions they get rituals,
right,
and it's ruined through the ritualism of it. So like Hinduism is one that I see, you know, like there's Brahmin or Brahma. I know one is the sun and one is the creator.
Sure.
Huh?
I'm not sure, yeah.
Yeah. One is the creator of all reality, and the way he did it was he was just a consciousness existing in a void. And he was going insane because he was the only thing existing. So he split himself and continued dividing his consciousness to create more things to interact with.
Oh, wow.
I think that's a universal truth. Part of me does. Part of me thinks that is the start of existence. And you can even look at that, you know, from a scientific standpoint. That's what the Big Bang was. It was a big dividing and creating complexity, chasing complexity for something new, chasing the new thing. And Hinduism doesn't even focus on this anymore. They focus on the smaller gods, like the ones that bring you wealth, fertility,
right.
You know, they went away from that. And so it makes me upset that religion had it and then lost it.
I kind of see this pattern with all of them, and I don't know. I feel like it's natural because in the way I'm visualizing this, if I'm visualizing the time and the ebbs and flows, I'm seeing groups of this animal start to be able to communicate, get more sophisticated communication, and at some point they start, you know, ethics emerge. Well, before communication, ethics emerge, and then they start having more higher forms of abstract thought, and then they start acting out this thing, and then you fast forward to when they can write. Well, someone writes a story and someone reads it and goes, that's bullshit, and they throw it away, and then a million more times that happens until one of them, for whatever reason, it resonates and a person goes, whoa, there's something here, because it might intimate something that they abstracted from reality. Like, it reminds them of something. Like, it reminds them of some kind of flow that's natural, that's real. So you do that 1,000 more times, and you create these successful stories that, for whatever reason, resonate. And that becomes a proto-religion. And then that gets passed down and edited and edited and edited. Not, as I used to think, like, necessarily out of evil, but because you, just like we change genes every generation. So there's these tiny edits that are made until it becomes more and more true. And that's why you have things like, you know, the story of Cain and Abel, which is exactly true about resentment. And then after you get done with that, now we know that. So now the awe we had reading this isn't really there because we kind of understand it innately. So maybe we don't, you know, clutch that meaningful stuff as much, and then we're free to focus on like the money god, you know, something that's like so, because now money's a thing. But that does seem like a shame, because there's some real stuff in there that for whatever reason just deep, like it's there's some real human shit in there.
But I think religion explains why we're here very well at the core of what it is. I don't think beyond the core it doesn't add any more value for me. And, you know, it's chasing the thing and doing that. That's all that religion is. It's like, well, you're here to exist. You know, you're here to be good and chase the thing and exist. And then it gets muddied. It gets diluted.
Which parts specifically are like muddied with like Christianity or with like Judaism?
Oh, so like Judaism,
or even Latter-day Saints. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about that.
Oh man, Mormons, whew, they almost have it.
They almost have it?
They almost had it.
Oh,
I think.
Man.
Like, like, and then it was ruined. And it's funny because I think it all started with a lie. And this is coming from someone, grew up in the church.
Yeah.
And I think it all started with Joseph Smith telling a lie. But that innate human of understanding built upon that lie. And he was just trying to keep the ball from falling out of the air.
Yeah.
But I think at its core it had it. They believe you turn into gods. And
which is interesting because a lot of Eastern things kind of hint at that, like...
Yeah, they believe that our only purpose is to create more reality. So, like, your eventual goal is to turn into a god to create more universes. The eternal progression is what they call it. And at its core, that's what it is, eternal progression. So, eventually we will learn what God does, which would be chasing the thing, physics.
Yeah.
We learn what God does, and then we replicate it. So, if we chase physics...
wow, that's interesting.
And we, eventually, that could be, like, they say...
So wait a second. Just from, I know you haven't even finished yet, but just from what you've said so far, I don't see any friction between science and the Book of the Latter-day Saints, though, just from what you've said so far.
Compared to most modern Christianity, they are one of the most accepting. So, but they still have a lot of conservative values in the sense of, like, sexual orientation and,
I wonder why.
It's very strange. Because that's a social thing. It's almost like...
and drugs, too, I mean...
Yeah.
Caffeine and...
Yeah. It's a social thing. Their social divide is on the wrong path.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say so if caffeine's an issue.
Caffeine is an issue, a major issue. No hot drinks or beverages.
No hot drinks or beverages. Wait, do you mean like hot chocolate?
Yeah, that would technically be a no-go. Why? Yeah, so this is actually a funny thing with Mormons twisting the rules. So it's been clearly said by the modern-day prophets that is in the Pearl of Great Price, and it's Joseph Smith, a moment of ethics, pretty much, where he writes like rules of what's a good thing. And that all stemmed actually from they were all sitting there talking, spitting tobacco at the fire, chewing tobacco, and Emily, Joseph's wife, was like, that's disgusting. And then and then he's like revelation from God.
Oh yeah.
My wife was being bitchy, so we're not going to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And by the way, these are other things that are bad for your body. And it just so happened to be on the right track. And so, but the modern day prophets say that it says in the Pearl of Great Price, hot drink. And it's talking about coffee. And so they're like, well, that's caffeine.
Okay.
So, but I have some Mormon friends who take it literally and will go drink an iced coffee and be like, well, it's not hot. And we're like,
wow.
It means caffeine.
Spirit of the law or...
literal translation.
Yeah. Oof.
Did
you ever have any... I have to ask. If you ever knew anybody who partook in soaking?
Soaking? Is that like clouding?
What is clouding?
What's soaking? Describe it for me.
No, you tell me what clouding is. I need to know.
It's a sex thing.
Okay, so it's soaking.
Okay, it's where they believe that the action of sex is the movement part.
Okay, we're in the same.
We're in the same
place.
thing.
Yeah,
and they'll like enter. And then have like other people move the bed or something.
Wow, yeah, okay.
Yeah, no. Not firsthand, but I have friends who've known other people that have done that.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's no different than an orgy. Just, some other people helping out in the work. That's worse.
Got freakier. Jeez.
I think that's what's wrong with Japan too. It's like they're so weirdly open about their body, but so oh, no sex, no quiet, and so like it created all this weird tentacle porn.
They have the most like versatile range of morals. I don't understand.
It's so strange.
It's like men are so afraid. Like I think men and women there are both afraid of rejection.
Yes.
And it's such a modern society and such an ancient mentality at the same time, and I don't understand.
It's such a weird place, and it's funny to me that the government is trying their best to get them to reproduce because their population. So like they have like penis festivals and
my God.
And like fertility stuff, and I'm like, this is strange. They're like
strange.
They're like, population, go make babies.
Yeah,
but their lives are so hard there. It's weird because it's easier in a lot of ways than here, but like their work hours are so hard to provide just a barely any living, and I'm just like, well, if you made their lives easier,
right,
people would go, oh, I don't need to work as hard.
I don't think Japanese people like the idea of things getting easier though.
No, I don't.
They fake falling asleep at work from exhaustion.
Yeah.
So, if that's true, I've just heard about it, so...
No, they actually do fall asleep at work. That's a legitimate thing.
Yeah.
And there's a name for dying of exhaustion from work, too. I forgot what that word is.
Yeah.
But it's a thing, and considered an honorable death.
Yes.
And I'm like, that is so weird. Like, take it easy, pal.
Yeah, I'm sitting here just trying to think of what circumstances could have created this weird situation in which you have a country where women are rapidly becoming very economically powerful, which is good.
Yeah.
It's a good thing objectively. It actually statistically helps countries when that happens. But then you have the word for woman means... Or is it the word for wife? It's a word for wife means the person deep in the house.
Oh,
it's strange.
That is so strange.
Yeah.
Man, I didn't know that.
Yeah, oxon.
Oxon. Man.
That's very peculiar. It's like they have a foot in every century.
Yeah, it's so strange to me, and I just see this society, and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
Like, why are you doing this? Like, and it's funny. I'm sure you've seen the memes where it's like Japan, pre-World War II, and it's like hardcore, like and then like post-World War II, it's like, Konnichiwa, and I'm like, they went hard in a different direction. They're still hard, they went hard in another way, but man, so strange.
I never thought that. You're making me think that maybe there's something to that. Do you think there's anything to that?
Oh, what World War II did?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I put them in their place.
Damn.
And they might be doing the same thing as, like, keeping busy from acknowledging existence.
Oh, man.
And then U.S. being Big Brother there, because even now they still do that.
Yeah.
Because Japan was a hard fight.
Yeah.
And so it's like, all right, we have to be here to keep you from doing that again. But
yeah, I think there's a serious respect for you hear stories about, from like family or from just old people, and like I always hear like the Japs, and like there's a tone and there's always like a graveness to it. So
my great grandfather served over there in World War II.
Oh wow.
And he served there in the Philippines. And
Philippines was another place where they were hit hard by Japanese.
The Philippines hated the Japanese. Yep. When the war ended and like all these camps were like closing down and stuff, they would have to like pull the Philippines off of these Japanese people because they were like burning cigarettes in their eyes and like
I did not know that.
Like torturing the Japanese.
Here? Like in the internment camps here?
No. In the Philippines.
Oh, okay.
So when the war ended, you know, and all these like, because Japan had like bases, and you know,
and they were fucking
brutal, and so they had to like pull them off, and you know, and like stuff like that, and it was brutal. It's actually kind of funny. My great grandfather was not a good man. He was, but he wasn't.
Right. He's from a different time.
He's from a different time.
Yeah.
He had a bastard family over there.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
In which place?
In the Philippines.
In the Philippines. Okay.
And like we know they're still out there. We know she had 5 kids during his time of being over there, from his like letters and stuff. And we're just like,
what's up, family?
We don't know them, you know.
Yeah.
But it's like, these would be my cousins.
Yeah.
Over
Holy
there.
Crap.
You know.
So no wild weekends randomly in the Philippines for you then.
Oh, but it's funny because my cousin Logan served over there in the area. And we're like, he was pretty sure he found them.
Really?
But there was no guarantee, you know.
Like he found some Western looking.
Yes. Like, and he's like, which it could have been anyone, you know. It could have been someone who, but they had the very particular genes that look like us.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, it's like,
wow. It's like you have a whole city of people and then you.
Yeah.
Come on now. Hell of a coincidence.
Yeah, I learned, I'm no longer fluent in it, and I wish I was. I learned Tagalog, and then I knew quite a bit of Ilocano.
I don't even know what Ilocano is.
Oh, so the Philippines is one of, besides like Papua New Guinea, over there, one of the most divided language.
Oh,
because it's a whole bunch of islands.
I thought it was all Tagalog.
No, Tagalog's just the main one.
Okay.
And Ilocano is probably the second one. The Ilocano is more towards like mountainous, you know. But it's kind of like how an example is, you know, like here, or like Louisiana's a better example. You know, Louisianan Cajun is technically English. Technically,
if we have to accept it.
If we have to accept it, but the deeper you go in the bayou, the more it turns into French.
Those are my people, by the way.
I know they are.
Those are my people.
I went to, before the pandemic broke out, I went to Mardi Gras, and I was like, this is another country inside of the country.
Dude, I recently started talking to my father's side of the family again. I haven't spoken to them since I was very, very young. Very young. And I have 3 sisters over in California now because of the military, they all went to California. I talked to my grandmother on the phone, and she still has a wicked accent. Like, it's crazy. It's wild. And then the sister has the regular
Cali
girl, you know, regular, neutral. To me, it's kind of a neutral accent, right? Because I guess
we're used to it, seeing it on television and stuff like that. Yeah.
But like you're saying,
that Cajun, you know, I'm out here, you know, Boomhauer, you know, kind of thing. Ooh,
it's wild.
I went there with my friend Tyson, and you know, he grew up here, but he spent a lot of like his time over there, and it was funny to watch over the week that we were there. His accent.
Oh, did he start?
He started reverting back.
Oh no, you're backsliding.
You're backsliding.
Oh,
and
shit.
I was like, he was having conversations with like some family members, or like pure Cajuns bayou come pull an alligator out of, you know, the bayou. Doom, shoot, this and those, you know, and like man, he started to backgrass, and I was like, holy cow.
Damn.
I've never seen this in you. Ever.
Talk about code switching.
I was like, that's more hardcore than my medical terminology to redneck. What has happened here?
That's wild. I've never been to the homeland.
I'm going to tell you right now, different country. Like, you walk down through downtown New Orleans and you're like, all right, this looks like it's from Europe. This looks like it's from
So
France.
it is French, like, very French.
Yeah, like the buildings and everything. And you're like, and then you see a lot of Africano, stuff going on, and you're like, and Spanish stuff, and you're like, this is the strangest place I have ever been. And Mardi Gras is just as big as Christmas, if not bigger, for them.
Dang.
And so, like, I was like...
bunch of fucking alcohol.
That you can drive around with daiquiris in your car
there. Hell yeah. Fuck the Irish people. You're pretending.
You're pretending. Ooh, but they figured it out right, because, like, the whole build up to Mardi Gras, which is like a 3-month thing, but like the last month is the major. They slow drink the entire time. They wake up in the morning and they drink, but it's like very light beers. I went there hardcore. I was like, here's my pretty much snake handler, 13% all day, every day. And I was like, how are you people functioning? And then I look over and they're like drinking Miller Lite and like Bud Light.
People take their drinking super serious when they've come back from the hardcore and they're like, no, we're going to do this. And we're going to do it in a calculated way. And we're going to do it so that we never have to stop. And so that we can get away with it.
Yes.
They are serious about their fucking alcohol.
Man, and I died when I was down there because everything had bread in it. Everything. Yeah. And like a poor boy, totally worth it down there. Better than anyone I've ever had. I don't really like, what are they called? The,
brioche?
The donut things. Baguettes. Baguette is what it's called.
Oh, I thought you were talking about cannoli or something.
Oh, no.
Okay.
But baguettes, I don't really like them. They're too sweet. Which, I'm not a big sweet tooth anyways, but I was like, too sweet. But totally different country. Jesus Christ. I was like, this
Wild.
There's an essay I read several years ago called, I think it's 11 different countries in the United States.
Nice.
And like, like the hillbilly mountain area is one, lowland...
Fuck, now I can't think of the name of it.
Lowland Southern, is one, like Midwest, like it's divided amongst 11 different areas, and I don't remember if Louisiana was its own or not, but it needs to be. It has to be.
Dude.
I was like, this is so strange. If you ever do go down there, though, go to the World War II Museum.
Nice.
It's super cool. And just...
I didn't know they had one.
Yeah, and walk around, Bourbon Street and stuff. Everyone is like, oh, you'll get mugged and stuff. It's not.
I don't believe that shit. I think people are hypochondriacs when it comes to that. I think they hear something on the news and they assume it happens 100% to everybody.
Birmingham came across as way more dangerous.
I can believe that.
Than New Orleans did.
I can definitely believe that.
Like in main areas, like there were areas where we drove through in New Orleans where I was like, I would not stop the car here.
Right.
But you have that too in Birmingham.
Yeah, in abundance.
Like Gate City.
Dude. People don't even know about Gate City.
It's a tragedy.
Like so many places. Yeah.
And
I was told it was called Gate City because it was enclosed.
It is.
And cops won't go in there, is what I was told.
Yeah, no, my GPS tried to take me through there one time, and there were cops there, and they stopped me, and they were like, do not drive through here.
Wow.
Like legitimately were like, do not drive through here. It is getting dark. You will have your tires shot, and your car will be burning. And I was like,
this is a whole different world.
Yeah. To me, that divide is so weird because it's not that far, like miles wise, away from like Homewood.
Yeah. There's a theory about that. There's a direct correlation between violence in an area and the difference in wealth. So it's like, what was it? If you have an area with a lot of people who are of different, like hugely different wealths or like economic positions, it's almost like, remember seeing about highly social monkeys and apes that when they find something, they have to alert everybody else. It's almost like there's something getting triggered where, you found resources and you didn't tell everybody else. So it's almost like that's doing something because we still have this nature. So, like, if I have nothing and I see people walking around with everything, I feel like, oh, something's fucked up here. Something's very, very wrong. I'm going to act out and I'm going to disrupt it. I think that's the theory, but I don't know how much truth there is to it, obviously. Not psychologist.
There is a direct correlation. I read another article about it where it was which way the wind blows in the most direction in proportion to where like the industrial centers are. So the areas where most pollution lands are the lowest income areas.
Yeah.
And it's just the way the cities have been for forever. And I find that very weird.
Yeah.
It's
like every single tiny little factor is like used
to social engineer this certain, like, I don't want to call it social engineering, but it may not be like a conscious social engineering. It may be like these are echoing things of us being from tribes. Like these were once small characteristics.
Yeah.
But when you build up society to be so big, they equal out to be these huge gaps.
Yeah.
Before, it didn't matter when there was 147 people in the tribe because you knew everybody.
Yeah.
But when there's, 20 million people living in a city...
Yeah, you can't care about 99% of them.
Yeah.
You just can't, I don't think.
You can't.
You can say you do. And I think a lot of us do. I do it. I'm like, yeah, I care about everybody. Yeah.
But you can't.
Yeah. Because, I think there's a nature of caring about your people. And it seems to be pretty accurate. Based on how we're acting. How are we doing on that?
I have no clue. Let me... I assume that is 3,000 something seconds. I don't have my phone. It's way over there. I need to go in and change it from seconds over into time.
Hold on. Let me ask Mr. Android here.
Oh.
Because I got a participation trophy in math.
It is 10:30, whatever time we got down.
Okay.
We got down here at like 8:30, and it probably took, or like 9.
Okay, so we're sitting at about an hour, I guess, because 3,400 seconds divided by 60.
Oh, hey. Let's go for another 20, if we can.
Yeah.
And there was a little bit of stumbling there in the beginning.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're getting into it.
Yeah.
So...
speaking of the South, and speaking of social engineering, or maybe not, or stuff like that, why do you think we still have huge differences in qualities of life for different races here? There's theories about it. It just seems like a shame.
But it is a shame.
So, what do you think's going on? Because, I've heard theories that I like, and I've heard theories that I don't like. And I've heard theories that I like that I don't think are true, and I've heard theories that I don't like that I think are maybe accurate.
It's a very touchy subject.
Yeah.
I think there's some truth to all sides. I think people act out, lower income areas act out because of what you were saying earlier. They see the divide.
So I'm asking why there's a correlation between lower income areas and racial differences.
So I think that was the white man controlled power,
right,
and set up society.
I can absolutely buy that.
And that is my thing. I think he controlled the power, he set up society, and this is just the echoing thing of setting up. Because you know, I'm white, but I'm like, we come from redneck, hillbilly, you know, my family pulled themselves out of the dirt, kind of thing. I live in one of the poorest areas in the United States. I have a nice house, and I have the ability to travel, but there's trailer parks all around me where people don't make over $12,000 a year. Like, where that's the...
Yeah. I mean, the first time I came to see you and Sarah, I was frightened.
Yeah.
And then I felt guilty that I was so relieved when I got to your house, and I was like, oh, thank God. Oh, thank God. This is beautiful. This is amazing. Okay, great.
Those people make less than $12,000 a year on average there.
Yeah, I can believe it.
And it's one of the poorest.
Yeah. So I'm not exactly white. I'm culturally probably white, if that's a thing. I don't really... It's so weird. When you grow up in between races, like I have, I don't... Like, I can't tell you how bored I am of talking about races. I don't
such a boring conversation.
But there are things I'm witnessing. So, like, I don't want to blame people. I want to be accurate in events. So, like, I can buy perfectly well that at one point in time it was, you know, the majority of people were white. They controlled everything, and they actually owned another race of people. It is what it is. It was what it was, and that there's a residue from what happened, and it's still here today. But then I look back and see, like, you know, there was a time when I think black people were doing better. I think black communities were doing way better at a certain point, and then something happened.
So right after, like, right after the civil rights movement, there was a time period where people of color were just doing great.
Yes.
And then I think this goes back to the 70s when we stopped having growth, and I think white people were in the position to continue grabbing from society. I think we were in the position to continue getting things from society, but there was no more growth. So we said, there's no more pie. It's either me or you. The pie's no longer growing. So I'm going to keep my cut, and I'm not going to let you... Because I'm still in the position of power.
Okay, so you're saying that still, even though things had shifted some, there was still a leverage.
Yes, there was
that was eventually exerted at the right time. Is that sort of...
I think so.
Okay, there's something that I heard that I don't know the names of people of interest involved, and just for the theory, it's not important. But you'll, like, anyone who's listening will know if they know anything about American history. I just suck at it. So let me kind of lay it out for you, and you kind of tell me how it hits you, and if you, like, want to call bullshit, or if you think that maybe there's plausibility there. Do you know what, like, the biggest factors in determining whether you can bet on a child's success in
the marshmallow test?
No. Even before that. Like, if you look at a baby, do you know what the biggest test is you can kind of conduct or examine to determine if you can bet and be successful in your bet of whether they're going to be educated, happy, non-violent?
Which social class they're in?
It even kind of goes before that. It's a kind of a trick question. I don't because I don't know how to word it right. So basically, it's you look at the parents.
Mm-hmm.
Parents are together.
Mm-hmm.
If the parents are both there, if there's a father, then supposedly males have a leadership to integrate negative aspects into being positive, and they're more productive people. They have more self-esteem. Daughters have a better example. So I heard this and I was like, okay, well, I don't like where it's going, but I'm having a hard time arguing with it.
I'm having a hard time arguing with it. I do the same thing.
Yeah.
So,
but that's just the beginning. Like, and then like I want to put that there to start tracking back.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you look at certain communities that are fatherless,
mm-hmm.
and they are fatherless. And we can't argue about that. And like I can't argue about that. So then the question is, well, why is that?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe if we go back in time, and then it happens to look like around the time that black communities started falling apart and violence was on the rise and poverty retook communities, it looks like families were splitting apart.
Yes.
So then a question is, okay, did something happen? And as I understand it, that was the time that, I don't like it. That was the time where welfare was pushed by a white politician, basically saying, we're going to do something for you, we're going to help you out. I have no idea what the intention there was. Some people say that the intention was sinister. Some people say the intention was good, to help black communities because of past transgressions. And you can follow like a domino effect from incentivizing single mothers with money that outweighed having a father. And because of that, you see families more and more likely to be split up, and then you're rewarding them financially. And I don't know about all that, because I wasn't there. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, but as someone who, my father wasn't a deadbeat, but he wasn't a good father.
Right.
I understand that standpoint. I had a very lucky time period in my life where my stepfather was the best father anyone could ask for.
Nice, that's awesome.
I mean, he was my dad. But I can tell you, even till this day, there's still some internal rage that my father was a mean person, and I try now to connect with him, and he's changed as a person. He really has. But I'll have moments where I'll look at him, and those moments of remembering what he was, and I'll go,
it's just deep.
It's just deep. It's such a deep wound that no matter how much I say I have forgiven him, or how much I'm okay with accepting what happened, I can't. I've tried beyond belief, but I can't. And it's the weirdest thing that I'll be having just the happiest conversation with him, and then I'll remember the thing, the like verbal abuse and just being mean,
right,
as can be. I'm on the spectrum. I'm autistic, and growing up, he used to do he's a mechanic. He'd do things like sound is my number one thing that's
okay.
very hard for me to handle, and he would be running loud, like a loud car or something, and I would plug my ears, and he'd come up behind me and rip my hands out of my ears and would say no, you have to man up, and like men don't cover their ears, don't, very typical toxic
right
you know, like different than like you know, being like there's a time to be strong. That's a completely different thing.
Yeah. There's different approaches.
There's different approaches to that, and he took the wrong one.
Right.
And was just very mean about existence. And now he's not that way. Now I've grown, but I remember it.
Right.
And it's like a dog that you've beaten. That dog remembers it. No matter how long.
That's strange. Like, that's just... I don't even remember the things like that. I don't even have those kind of like real negative experiences. I just remember subtle things from my father, and I don't even believe he was a bad person. He was a harsh person. And for someone who, like, I was just in a position where it didn't affect me as much, so for someone else it might have. So he may have been that figure, but like I find myself almost acting in ways and going, why am I acting like this? Who in my life has been like this? And now I'll go, oh my God. I remember exactly that thing, that lack of patience and that no fucking around thing. And like, I don't feel like that kind of person, but in certain situations, I'll catch myself acting like it. And that makes me think like, wow, like parental impact is real. Which even like genetic impact. How much do you think you are personality of your mother and your father? Well, my mother is borderline, so I don't want to claim that, because if you've been raised by someone who's borderline, that's a different thing. Like, I can't be around her.
Toxic mothers are just as bad as abusive fathers. Or deadbeat, absent fathers. Just as bad.
Yeah. So, I'd like to say I'm not, but I know that one way or another, either it's genetic or I learned how to be pointed and really, really cutting. And I don't like it, but I know it's there.
But that can be a tool to use.
It can be a tool to use. And what I've tried to do really hard is to just accept it and really work on it and go, okay, this is a tool I have in the toolbox. I'm in control of it.
Yes.
So
I think nature versus nurture is such an interesting thing.
Yeah.
We have a couple of adopted cousins, and one of my cousins barely knows her biological mother. They know of her, but I've met her a few times, especially when she was a baby, and now my little cousin, I can look at her and mannerisms she does, and I say, she got that from her biological mother. Really? Even though she was not raised with her at all.
So there's something there.
There's something there to being genetically, like mannerisms and personality and all that. Something to it being genetic.
That's interesting.
Which is what I went to school for biochemistry and genetics. And so that kind of thing just interests me. Sounds awful, but when I do have kids, I am going to have biological kids.
Right.
And it will be like the greatest experiment ever. That sounds a little sadistic for me, but to go like, what genetically is this trait that I'm going to see you do, like, will you have this quirk that I do?
Yeah.
Like, will you do this thing that I do in this particular way, even if you haven't seen me do it? Or, like, will you make the same mistakes I have?
Right.
And it not be from me echoing it back to you just because you're growing up.
Right.
Are you going to get too drunk in a field on some vodka and, like, sneak out your window?
Well, If he or she is cool, then yeah.
Are you going to be a wild child? I mean, I hope so. That sounds weird. Most parents are like, I don't want a wild child. And I'm like...
I don't know, man. Because there's something to that.
There's something to that. There's something about that defiance to reality.
Yes.
That lets them... They may be mad at the world for the first, like when they really become conscious. So like my first like real consciousness that I remember is, pre-5. Like I remember that. But like being really conscious, for 15 years mad at the world from like 5 to 20 or even longer. Something about that going, fuck society.
Yeah.
Or like seeing what's wrong with it. There's something to that.
Yeah.
So that they can go, all right, I've tried to play this game, let me play it from outside the box.
Right.
But
also knowing that do you know anybody who's just doesn't have it in them for whatever reason to be harsh or to be rage-filled or anything like that?
Yeah.
I'm beginning to think that that's unfortunate.
Me too, because they don't have any balls.
That's a way to put it, yeah.
They don't.
Yeah. So, oh my God, I need you to weigh in on this. I have a friend who I care about so tremendously. He's always tried to be there for everybody. We've spent a lot of time together doing things that we really like to do. A lot of good quality time. I've watched him grow. I mean, now I've finally known people for a long time, and there's something to that. It makes me feel something. I'm connected to these people. He puts himself in, he stretches himself out on these limbs to help people, and it almost always blows up in his face. He constantly is there for people, which all sounds like good things, right? It sounds like good things.
Sounds like good things.
He's always making space within his boundaries for other people. And recently I've realized he's going to be an incredibly resentful person when he gets older. He is now. He just doesn't realize he is. He's confused. He's older than me. He's confused about why nothing works out for him.
Because you're not being selfish.
Yeah. But he thinks
that being non-selfish, it's the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
Being selfish is sometimes the best thing you can do for other people.
And I've tried to hint at that.
Just be upfront.
Yeah.
Hey man, be selfish. Like, it may hurt people's feelings, but you don't need to care.
I think it's partially that, and it's partially
don't be an asshole.
Right.
But be some selfish.
Right. I think he feels like he will violate his own identity. Because he's built this identity as the nice guy. But it's, he's putting himself in a position like he hasn't left home, but not for good reasons. For reasons that he's being, I believe, and I could be completely wrong, I'm out of place. I think he's being emotionally crippled by his mother. He's not being encouraged by his father. And his mother has said, basically in so many words, it's okay, you don't have to go anywhere. You stay right here with me, I'll take care of you. But don't go anywhere. You are mine. So
I don't want to tell you to tell him to grow up, and
well, what is growing up? Because he's not even in the frame of reference that growing up means changing that.
But
because he has a good job. So money-wise, he has this rebuttal in his head. He goes, no, I have money. So I'm grown up.
That's not that, though. Hey, man, I am my recorder's about to die.
Okay. Gotta wrap it.
I gotta wrap it up. Thank you for being on the BullRun podcast. We're probably going to continue this afterwards, just upstairs.
Yes, got to.
But yeah, no, all of those things. Thank you for being on here.
Yeah, it was a good time. I enjoyed it. I can't wait for you to talk to some of these people that you have.
Oh
in mind.
man, me
Dude.
too. I got confirmation from my friend Alan and them to do it.
Excellent.
And so I'm like, psychedelic retreat talk.
It's all coming together now. Awesome, man. It's been good.
Yeah.